Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, Norm? What's up, Matt? Alright, so let's see how total crypto market cap is looking. So we are bearishly engulfing, broke below the fib level here, which was a pretty key support. We pretty well have the 618 left to hold on to, and if we break below here, about $1.147 trillion for the bottom of this wick. Pretty well signaling that we're going to be entering the bear market at that point. So we're at a bit of a final stand for the total crypto market cap in Bitcoin currently. Alright, daily bears gaining momentum on the MACD, bearish cross on the stochastic. We are oversold on the RSI. We are still attempting to bearishly engulf on the daily candle though. Yeah, it's really starting to cut it close. Yeah, what's up, Jesse? Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastics cross bearish, slightly coiling up. RSI is quite oversold on the 4 hour. And we're also bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour, so price action on the candles isn't really looking nice on any time frame currently. Yeah, even the 1 hour, we have bearish engulfing going on currently. Very, very slight bullish divergence, but that doesn't really mean anything whenever the price action's like this currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. Yeah, looking like there's definitely potential for a bit more pullback here. And like I was saying, if we do break this key final support, could be quite a lot of pullback and blood at that point. And let's see how Bitcoin's looking versus total crypto market cap. Bitcoin's honestly looking even a little bit worse than the total crypto market cap right now. We're bearishly engulfing, and we are attempting to break below the wicks right now currently. So we had broken below the 618 fib level, bearishly engulfed below that, and now we're just seeing if it's going to catch here. If any bids are going to come in and will form a final support at these wicks here. And potential for a higher low if it were to reverse basically immediately, but it's definitely starting to look pretty bloody and a lot more bearish than bullish currently. And once we break below the wicks here from the June highs, or June lows, it's going to be looking pretty bad at that point. Definitely a good chance that we'll be seeing the bear market if we do break below here. So, bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the candles. So, over the next day up to a week, it's pretty well do or die for Bitcoin and the total crypto market cap. We're either going to get a bounce real soon, or we're going to break below key support levels and pretty well going to signal that we're in the bear market at that point. We have been on quite a dirty downtrend, but if we break below these key support levels, that's going to signal, yeah, this is the bear market. And at that point, we could see some pretty dirty capitulation and a really big pullback at that point. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, stochastics crossed bearish. RSI is oversold on the daily. And now we're just consolidating on the daily candle while it decides what it wants to do. Bears still gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic is bearish but coiled up pretty heavily. Oversold on the RSI. And just attempting to hold on the 4 hour candle for now, but we'll have to see how this plays out over the next day or two. Bears losing very slight momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. A little bit of 1 hour bullish divergence, and just consolidating on this new hourly candle. So it's going to be a really interesting few days here to see how everything plays out. If we do break key support levels, well, it's going to be a couple of dump streams coming up where we're just going to see the price action of pretty well all cryptos are likely going to be in a very, very dirty downtrend at that point. Alright, Ethereum. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearish engulfing on the candles currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, oversold on the RSI for now, and just consolidating on the daily candle currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic, quite oversold on the RSI, and just consolidating on the 4 hour candle. Losing very slight bearish momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, but the stochastic is still cross bearish. Tiny bit of 1 hour bullish divergence and just consolidating on the hourly candle now. So most cryptos, it's going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin and total crypto market cap. If those break bearish and we don't hold support at the final support, very likely that we're going to see Ethereum, XRP, lots of other altcoins as well going for a pretty dirty pullback. So keep a very close eye on Bitcoin and total crypto market cap in the coming days, so we'll have a rough idea on what happens. And this is very unfortunate. XRP had broken bearish out of this very large pennant that we've been consolidating in. So XRP has been in this pennant since December of 2020. So over a year we've been consolidating in this giant pennant here. And this is what I was worried about happening. We got a break below. We got a retouch. So we confirmed support as new resistance now. Bounced off the bottom of the pennant. And now we're attempting to break the 786 fib level. So if we get a confirmation break below here, it's very possible that we could go as low as around 12.6 cents on XRP, which that would be a very large pullback on this asset. So bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and now we're attempting to bearishly engulf and break below the fib level here. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, stochastic's coiled up below the 20. No bullish divergence on the daily. We are oversold on the RSI. And now we are attempting to bearishly engulf on the daily candles as well. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic coiled up pretty heavily. Very oversold on the RSI for the 4 hour, but we are still attempting to bearishly engulf on the candles. Bears attempting to gain momentum again on the 1 hour MACD. Bearish cross on the stochastic. Oversold slightly on the RSI, but still attempting to bearishly engulf on the candles. So most cryptos right now are just looking like dust. If we don't see Bitcoin and total crypto market cap hold on, buckle up, because we're probably going to be in for a pretty bumpy ride down. Anything that you guys want me to check out for you tonight? Yeah, Sphere is not looking great. High, lower low, lower high, lower low. So off the little bit of information we have available on this chart, looks like just based off the daily that Sphere is currently in a downtrend. Yeah, it sounds good. I'll finish taking a look at Sphere here and then I'll load up VVS and we'll see how that's looking. Looking like Sphere is attempting to hold on for its life here on the support, but if this breaks at around 0.0106 roughly, it's not going to be looking good for Sphere. If the floor gives out on this, we could see this pretty well rug pull and free fall. Bears gaining momentum on the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. We are oversold on the RSI with very slight 1 hour bullish divergence, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to hold this support level here, especially with the total crypto market and Bitcoin looking bad as it is now. Alright, let's see how VVS is looking. Down 21.3%. Oh yeah, we're creeping on down close to the bottom of the fib extension now. Very interested to see how low this could go during the bear market if we kick into the bear market fully, because we're already pretty close to the bottom of the fib extension now, so it's going to be interesting. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, oversold on the RSI, but this is actually a lower low than we had right here, so that's not looking great. Stochastic is cross bearish but beginning to coil up. We are still attempting to bearishly engulf on the daily candle though. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, quite oversold on the RSI for the 4 hour. Very slightly cross bearish but more coiled up than anything on the stochastic, and attempting to bearishly engulf on the candles. Attempting to bearishly engulf on the 1 hour candles, bearish cross on the stochastic. Bears losing some slight momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. And we are quite oversold on the RSI for the 1 hour. So yeah, VVS, I wouldn't be surprised if we do continue the downtrend. The bottom of the fib extension is 0.000046. So it's pretty large pullback from where we are now to get down to there. And if we break the bottom of the fib extension, well, we'll have to see how everything looks then whenever we get closer to it, because right now it's just showing a possibility of continuation of the downtrend. Maybe whenever we get down towards the bottom of the fib extension, it'll start to look nicer and potentially hold, but if we're just entering the bear market, BVS could be in for a pretty dirty pullback too from where we are now. And we're already pulled back pretty hard on VVS from where we were at the top here. Yeah, sounds good. I'll load up Hex right now. Alright, so for Hex, bulls are still gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastics cross bullish. The RSI is starting to get pretty close to the bearish control zone, but still neutral for now. And got some bearish engulfing going on this weekly candle. We got a little rally over the past 3 weeks, touched as high as the fib extension, and now this week with all the bearish price action going on with Bitcoin and total crypto market cap looking like it might be weighing Hex down a little bit here. Bearish momentum beginning to build on Hex on the daily for the first time since the 22nd of April. Bearish cross on the stochastic. Yeah, very clear rejection here of the fib level once we got up to there. And the RSI is neutral but getting close to the bearish control zone on the daily. 4 hours not looking as horrible. Bears losing a bit of momentum. Stochastic very slightly cross bullish. We're just hugging the oversold region on the RSI. It does look like we have a bit of a bear flag going on here though. And we actually do have some bearish divergence that formed here on the 4 hour before we got this pullback on Hex. So we went from high to higher high on the candles, and the RSI goes from high to lower high. So bearish divergence, sign of potential reversal back to the downside. And between the bearish divergence and just hugging and bouncing off the fib level, not really that surprised that it had this pullback even without whatever happened on Bitcoin and total crypto market cap today. That's definitely not helping at all though. And now we are slightly oversold, but It's kind of hard to tell on this one. Looking more likely that we will pull back a bit further. It's probably just going to cool off a little longer first. 1 hour starting to gain some slight bullish momentum, but the stochastics coiled up. RSI got back up above the oversold region. Now we're just in the bearish control zone. Yeah, just consolidation going on the hourly candles here. Yeah, sounds good. I'll check that out right now. Alright, TRX. Bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastic is still bullish for now, but starting to coil up. Neutral on the RSI, and we're bearishly engulfing, attempting to get back below the fib level that we had just broken above. So no confirmation of this as support, pulling back under it. Bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the daily with a bearish cross on the stochastic. A little bit of daily bearish divergence on TRX as well before this began to pull back. And I don't like how we're just bearishly engulfing below the fib level now currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic is coiled up pretty heavily below the 20, which is nice at least. Bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. Very slight 1 hour bullish divergence, but with the macro looking the way it is, I don't know if that's going to be enough for it to hold up, but we'll see over the next few days. Yeah, it's not really looking the best either. It was definitely looking nicer before we seen this pullback on both Hex and TRX. And there was 4 hour bearish divergence as well before it pulled back. So we got a higher and a higher high on the candles, and a high and a lower high on the RSI. So bearish divergence, sign of potential reversal back to the downside. Yeah, most cryptos are looking pretty dusty today with all the bearish price action going on. Anything else that you guys want me to check out? Ooh. Yeah, Polar just took a real dirty dip today. 30.7% down currently. Yeah, pretty clear downtrend here on the weekly. And very clear on the daily. High, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then just consistent lower highs and lower lows here on the daily. Bears losing very slight momentum on this day with the stochastic coiled up heavily and the RSI is quite oversold. Bears are still gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour though. Stochastic's coiled up below the 20. Oversold on the RSI and bearish engulfing on the candles. Bears gaining momentum on the hourly again. Bearish cross on the stochastic. A little bit of bullish divergence on the 1 hour, but with the larger time frames looking as dusty as they are on Polar, I don't know if that's really going to be enough for this to hold up currently. So definitely looking like we could see some further pullback on Polar. Alright, so let's see how Dogecoin is looking. Bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and this is some really rough looking bearish engulfing going on the candles currently. Bears gaining a lot of momentum on the MACD for the daily with a bearish cross on the stochastic. Oversold on the RSI, and just really brutal bearish engulfing going on the candles currently. Broke below any support level that we had on Dogecoin currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, stochastics crossed bearish. Oof, all the way down to 12.14 on the 4 hour RSI, so very oversold. And bearish engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. 17 on the RSI for the 1 hour. And we're even bearishly engulfing on the 1 hour, so the fact that we don't have any support to hold on to for Dogecoin whatsoever, if we see the total crypto market cap of Bitcoin continue to pull back, this is pretty likely going to get a very dirty downtrend and keep on pulling back further. And let's see how Shiba Inu's looking today. Yeah, Shiba Inu broke some key support levels as well. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly with a bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. And on the candles, we got a break below the 786 fib level here. We retested support as resistance last week, and now we're just bearishly engulfing and continuing the downtrend. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic. Quite oversold on the RSI, but still bearishly engulfing on the daily candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, stochastic coiled up pretty heavily. Quite oversold on the RSI, but we are still bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bearishly engulfing on the 1 hour as well. 15 on the RSI for the hourly. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD and bearish cross on the stochastic. So the indicators are definitely looking quite bearish right now, and we broke below key support levels, so let's see. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a pullback to around 0.0000890. And if we break all key support levels like we did on Dogecoin, well, it's not going to be looking nice for Shiba whatsoever. Alright, Dow Jones, let's take a look at the US stock market and see how that's looking tonight. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and we are now attempting to bearishly engulf and break below the 236 fib level. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, stochastic coiled up heavily. Oversold on the, or pretty close to oversold on the RSI, still more room to run to the downside, and bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Very slight bearish momentum on the 1 hour, stochastic coiled up heavily, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearish engulfing on the 1 hour candles. So the Dow Jones definitely looks like we could see some further pullback. Now, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if we pull back to the 382. So that would be 29,663. And maybe just slightly further below that so that we retouch this previous top before the March COVID crash as support. And if we break further below there, it's going to be looking very bad at that point. But the 382 right here is the key support level that we're going to wait to see if this holds on the Dow Jones. NASDAQ, yeah, that was even further for the March crash. We were down to 9,780, so below the 382, just slightly above the 0.5 fib level for the NASDAQ. So bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic. The RSI is pretty close to oversold, but not quite yet, and very clear bearish engulfing below the 236 fib level now. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic. Getting pretty close to oversold on the RSI, still more room to run to the downside if it wants to, and bearishly engulfing on the daily candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic coiled up pretty heavily. Oversold on the RSI for the 4 hour, but we are still bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears gaining momentum again on the 1 hour. Stochastic coiled up heavily at the 20 zone. Slightly oversold on the RSI, but we are bearishly engulfing on the 1 hour. So both the Dow Jones and Nasdaq look like they're likely in for some further pullback, unless we see some intervention from the Fed. Okay, so the 382 is 10,689, and the 0.5 is 8,080. So 9,754 would probably be around where I wouldn't be surprised if we get down to and attempt to form support at the top that we were at before the March COVID crash. If we form support at the tops of before the COVID crash, it could start to look nicer for the US stocks, but for now, stocks are looking quite dirty. Alright, bears gaining momentum on the MACD, the MACD for the S&P 500 on the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the weekly candles. So for the S&P, the top we had before the March crash was 3,439, which would be just slightly above the 382 fib level. So bears gaining momentum, bearish cross, bearish control zone, bearish engulfing on the candles. And if you guys are enjoying the stream, don't forget to smash the like button. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the daily candles. Yeah, it's definitely looking like it. If we see Bitcoin break its final support level, it's probably going to go from a slow pull to a pretty dirty pullback at that point. So going to be keeping a very close eye on the $29,000 level. I believe it's about 29,300 USD for Bitcoin. Anything else you guys want me to check out for you tonight when I'm done looking at the S&P 500? Bears gaining momentum on the 4 hour, stochastics coiled up heavily, very slightly oversold on the RSI, but we are still bearishly engulfing on the candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, stochastic coiled up pretty heavily. Slightly oversold on the RSI for the 1 hour, but we are still bearishly engulfing. So it's pretty well looking bad for all the US stock indexes and crypto currently. Take a look at precious metals quick here and see how that's looking. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, still neutral on the RSI, and bearish engulfing on the weekly candles. Bears losing some very slight momentum on the daily MACD, stochastics crossed bearish, bearish control zone on the RSI, and we're just consolidating here, attempting to hold these levels on the daily. Bears gaining momentum on the 4 hour MACD again, stochastic coiled up pretty heavily, bearish control zone on the RSI, and pretty heavy consolidation on the 4 hour candles. Bears losing momentum on the 1 hour MACD, bullish cross on the stochastic, 1 hour bullish divergence, and consolidating. USO, okay. Alright, United States Oil Fund. We are currently below the 786, pretty close to the bottom of the fib extension. bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastic's coiled up pretty heavily, so attempting to decide what to do for its next major move. Still in the bullish control zone for now on the RSI, but looks like it is attempting to pull back into neutral. Yeah, just looking like some consolidation aside from that. Momentum's kind of choppy, bearish cross on the stochastic, neutral on the RSI, and some real heavy consolidation. Looking like there is a little bit of accumulation here as it's low, higher, low, higher, low. Could be looking a lot better though. Bears gaining a bit of momentum on the MACD for the 4-hour with a bearish cross on the stochastic. Just holding neutral on the RSI. And some pretty heavy consolidation going on here. Bears losing some very slight momentum on the MACD for the 1-hour. Stochastic is coiled up pretty heavily below the 20 zone. Not quite oversold on the RSI for the 1-hour, so still more room to pull back further if it wants to. And consolidation. Yeah, this one's an interesting looking chart. I don't really see as for sure of a direction that this is going to go as a lot of assets today. Looking a little more bearish than bullish, but I'd pretty well just be waiting to see if we can hold a higher low and form a higher high, and maybe we'll start to see some signs of trend reversal. Back to the upside. For now, I'd remain cautious though. Anything else that you guys want me to check out tonight? Bears, alright, silver. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. And I really don't like the looks of this. It looks like it is attempting to break the double bottom that we have going on here. Alright, so bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross, bearish control zone, bearish engulfing. On the daily, bears losing slight momentum on the MACD. Stochastics cross bearish, starting to coil up a little. Slightly oversold on the RSI. And now we're just consolidating, attempting to hold the double bottom for now, but we'll see if this holds or breaks soon. Bears losing slight momentum on the MACD for the 4-hour. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily below the 20. We were just very slightly oversold. Now we're hugging the oversold region on the RSI. And some pretty heavy consolidation on the 4-hour candles. 1-hour bulls attempting to gain some momentum with a bullish cross on the stochastic. Still in the bearish control zone on the RSI for now with some pretty heavy consolidation. So for silver, ideally what I'd like to see would be for this double bottom hold, which would be around 21.473 USD. If it holds, it's going to be looking pretty nice, but if it breaks, well, definitely could see some pretty significant downside at silver at that point, so this double bottom is going to be very critical for silver. Alright, let's take a look at the DXY and see how that's looking today. The US dollar currency index. Bulls gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Quite overbought on the RSI for the weekly, which is nice to see at least. What I do find interesting is the DXY is currently at the same levels that we were at the 2017 level. So right around when we seen the last cryptocurrency bull market top, the DXY was at the same point that we are currently right now. So the stochastic is attempting to cross bearish. Bulls still gaining momentum, very overbought on the RSI. Slight bullish engulfing, but looks like the bulls are not really as strong at these levels, basically from the resistance we have at the 2017 high. Bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the daily, stochastics coiling up above the 80 zone on the daily chart. We were just overbought on the daily RSI. Now we're just slightly under the overbought region and consolidating on the candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Neutral zone on the RSI with heavy consolidation on the 4 hour candles. 1 hour, bears losing momentum. Stochastics coiled up heavily. RSI is neutral. And consolidation on the candles. So looking like we're at a pretty key inflection point here on the US dollar index. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the coming days and weeks. UST, USDT. Yeah, sounds good. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, that's wild. So this is supposed to be a stable coin, and now it's down to 75 cents, pulled back as far as about 60 cents. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross. The RSI is down to 1, so that's crazy. Yeah, it went down as far as 60 cents. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic is attempting to cross bullish. RSI is just floored down around 1.6. And we're still bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Quite oversold on the RSI for the 1 hour, but the candles price action just looks horrible, looking like it's attempting to keep pulling back further. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this would be the Terra stablecoin if I have UST right. Yeah, I can't really see this being that good for DeFi for sure. Whenever you have a stablecoin just dropping 40% of its value in a week, that's really not great. I'm wondering how this is going to affect the Terra blockchain as well, if this is their stablecoin. Anything else that you guys want me to check out for you tonight? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This is the Terra Luna stablecoin, so this could definitely have an interesting effect on Luna. I'm actually going to take a look at the price of that right now. Oh yeah, Luna took a real dirty dump so far over the past 2 weeks. I'll take a look at Dogecoin in just 1 minute and we'll see how that's looking. So Luna, bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and not really looking great. Definitely starting to smash some key support levels. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily below the 80 zone. quite oversold on the RSI, and now we're just consolidating. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour still. Stochastic did cross bullish though on the 4 hour. Quite oversold on the RSI. And looking like a little bit of a cool off before potential further pullback. Yeah, not even any bullish divergence or anything, so definitely could keep pulling back further. Bears losing momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Bullish cross slightly on the stochastic and some consolidation on the 1 hour. Yeah, if we keep seeing the stablecoin pull back, I wouldn't be surprised if Luna takes a pretty dirty dump over the next 2-3 weeks. So, be keeping a close eye on this one to see how that all plays out. And I will go back to Dogecoin and take a look at that now for you. Which time frame were you asking if Doge is forming a hammer on? Yeah, I don't see a hammer forming on Doge. Oh, on the monthly, maybe attempting to form a hammer. We still have quite a while left for the month, though. No, I don't really see a hammer forming on the 2 hour chart here for Doge. Typically a hammer will see a long wick, and then it'll be completely full whenever the candle closes. For Doge bouncing back to 27 cents, oh, accidentally closed that. 1 sec. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see 27 cents to 786 if we get another run up for this cycle, which is starting to look a lot less likely the worse that Bitcoin looks. If Bitcoin breaks key support levels, no, we probably won't see 27 cents likely until the next bull run. Whenever we get the next bull run, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 27 cents and higher. Likely go past the previous all-time highs next bull run, but it's really going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin and total crypto market cap in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. So if we see a final run up for this cycle, which I don't really know how likely that is at this point, since Bitcoin's looking very bad, it's potential we would see 27 cents again, but I think it's more likely that we're going to see another run up for Dogecoin next market cycle, which will be I believe it's about 2 years to the halving, so potentially 3-4 years for another all-time high run for a lot of cryptos. Anything else that you guys want me to take a look at for you tonight? And just a reminder, if you're enjoying the stream tonight, don't forget to smash the like button. Alright, ADA, bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the monthly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, attempting to bearishly engulf and break below the 786 fib level. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and attempting to bearishly engulf and break below the fib level on the weekly as well. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, starting to coil up a bit. Just hugging the oversold region on the RSI, and some consolidation on the daily candle now. Bears losing slight momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Oversold on the RSI, and just consolidating here. Yeah, I could take a look at Polygon for you. I'll just finish taking a look at Cardano here quick, and then I'll load up Matic for you. Bears losing momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Bit of bullish divergence on the 1 hour. And now it's just consolidating and attempting to hold this level for now. Larger time frames, though, if we confirm a break below the 786, Cardano could be in for a very dirty pullback. And alright, let's take a look at Polygon for you and see how that's looking. Alright, Matic. The bears are gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Bearish control zone on the RSI. And just consistent bearish engulfing candles here over the past about month and a half. We're pretty well down to a really key support level here, down around 78.83 cents. If we break here, it's pretty well just the bottom of the fib extension left, which would be about 58.41 cents. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily. Stochastic just cross bullish, which is good at least. No bullish divergence, very close, but this is still slightly lower than the previous low that we had here. Some pretty heavy consolidation on the daily candles. Bears losing slight momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic cross bullish. Oversold on the RSI for now. And looking like we have a bit of a bear flag almost going on here. Bears losing slight momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Bearish control zone still on the RSI. And some heavy consolidation. Smaller time frames, looks like it's trying to cool off. Larger time frames, wouldn't really be surprised if we do see some further pullback, especially with the weekly, with the bears gaining momentum, bearish control zone, and bearish engulfing on the candles. The stochastic coiling up is the only thing that looks somewhat alright, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some further pullback on Matic. Anything else you guys want me to take a look at for you tonight? Alright, AION, bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and consistent bearish engulfing on the weekly candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, stochastic coiled up pretty heavily. Oversold on the RSI, and some little bit of consolidation, but looking like it's tempting to bearishly engulf on the daily. I could take a look at Microsoft for you in just one moment. I'll just finish looking at AION quick here, and then I'll load up Microsoft for you. No problem at all, man. Tempting to bearishly engulf on the 4 hour, but looking like it's consolidating a little bit. I don't think Bitcoin is going to zero, but we are likely going to see a very significant pullback on it if we break this final support level on it. Let's see. Attempting to bearishly engulf on the 1 hour as well. Yeah, I can go back to Bitcoin if you want me to take a look at that for you, though, and we can see some more likely areas that we'll see it pull back to. Yeah, and if you're enjoying the stream, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastic is cross bearish, but beginning to coil up. Bearish control zone, bearish engulfing on the candles. Alright, so we are currently bearishly engulfing and attempting to break below the 236 fib level. So next major fib level support would be $222.68 USD. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. Bearish engulfing on the daily, bearish cross, bears gaining momentum, bearish control zone. Four-hour bears gaining momentum on the MACD, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. Bears losing momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. Yeah, even the candles on the 1 hour aren't really looking great. For Microsoft, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see it continue to pull back further, especially if we finish the week bearishly engulfing as we are below the 236 fib level. So between 222 USD to 182.85 USD wouldn't really surprise me. I believe that this would be the top that we had before the COVID crash. Yeah, so the 0.5 fib level is looking pretty likely, so I wouldn't be surprised if we come down as far as 182.85 and potentially start to see a reversal if we see the stock indexes looking nicer at that point, but it's all going to depend on what happens with the stock indexes in the coming weeks and months. Does look like it is beginning a downtrend though. Uh, 9,200 Doge at the previous all-time highs. Was about 75 cents USD. I'm in Canada, so that would be roughly $1 per Doge at that point. So 9,200 Canadian. If you are going by American, 0.75 USD times 9,200, you'd be looking at 6,900 US dollars roughly at the previous all-time high on Doge, if you have 9,200 Doge. Anything else that you guys want me to check out for you tonight? Alright, Tesla. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the weekly candle. Looking like it is attempting to break below the 382. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearish engulfing on the candles. If we do break the 382, the next fib level for support would be the 0.5, which would be 623 USD. So, let's see. Oh, wow, Tesla had a real crazy run since 2020. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tesla pull back to the 0.5 or potentially the 618. So 476 USD to 623 USD. We actually have weekly bearish divergence that's pretty significant here as well. Yeah, sounds good. I'll load up QuantumScape in just one moment. Just going to finish looking at Tesla quick. Oh yeah, we actually have monthly bearish divergence, which is even more significant. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Tesla continue to pull back, especially with the monthly bearish divergence and the first bearish momentum we've seen on the MACD since October of 2019. So the 786, if the market got real dirty, would be 268.48 for Tesla. I personally wouldn't be surprised for pulling back to at least the 0.5, which would be 623 USD. If we get below the 618, which is 476.82, this is probably where I'll start to dollar cost average into this asset and start to accumulate a position again. 786, I start to pick up heavier bags if I'm bullish on the asset, and if we get below the 786, well, that's where I'll pick up very, very large bags if I believe that the asset is bullish in the longer terms. Alright, so let's take a look at QuantumScape. Alright, so we are below the 786 on QuantumScape. Bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly with a bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the candles. And we're holding on to the last real support around $11. Yeah, about $11.50. So if we break that, next support would be the bottom of the fib extension around 960. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily with a bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and pretty significant bearish engulfing going on the daily candles as well. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. We are oversold on the RSI at least, but we are still bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears losing a bit of momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour with the stochastic cross bearish but beginning to coil up. Oversold slightly on the RSI and still attempting to bearishly engulf on the 1 hour candles. So I don't see any signs of QuantumScape reversing back to the upside yet. It looks like it's likely still going to have some further downside on this asset. And yeah, TSM, I'll load that up right now. Yeah, these are some interesting assets. I haven't taken a look at the charts for a lot of these before. Alright, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Bears gaining momentum slightly on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Very, very slightly oversold on the RSI. And we have now broken below the 382 fib level. So the 0.5 would be at $74.24 USD. The March COVID crash we pulled down as low as about 45 USD. So, yeah, if the market continues a downtrend, I wouldn't be surprised if we pull down to around the 618, which would be 57.35 USD. The next fib level would be the 0.5, 74.24. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic. There's a little bit of bullish divergence here, but today we bearishly engulfed below the fib level, so I don't know if the bullish divergence is really going to play out. Could become invalidated. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour with a bearish cross on the stochastic. RSI is pretty close to oversold, but not quite. Some more room to run to the downside if it wants to. And bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour. Bears losing slight momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Bit of 1 hour bullish divergence, but with the larger time frames looking bearish, I don't really know if that's going to be enough to hold this asset. So smaller time frames looks like it wants to cool off a little bit. Larger time frames looks like it's likely going to pull back further. Yeah, especially whenever we look at this weekly bearish divergence here. So a bearish divergence would be when the candles forms a high and a higher high. So high, higher high. But the RSI forms a high and a lower high. So a bearish divergence is a reversal signal signaling that it's likely going to pull back down further. So we're pretty close to oversold after the bearish divergence, but we are breaking out below the fib level here. So it's looking more likely that it is going to continue to the downside. Anything else you guys want me to take a look at for you tonight? Alright, Nintendo. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and yeah, just bearishly engulfing on the weekly candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily with a bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and attempting to bearishly engulf on the daily as well. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic is cross bearish, beginning to coil up quite a bit. Oversold on the RSI for the 4 hour for now. And making an attempt at bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour again. Yeah, Nintendo's not really looking the best. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some further pullback on Nintendo as well. Alright, Zynga. Alright, bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the candles currently. The next fib level would be the 618, which would be at $7.17 on this asset. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic. We are oversold on the RSI now, but we're also bearishly engulfing on the daily candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic is cross bearish. Quite oversold on the RSI. And bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears losing a bit of momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Stochastics coiled up pretty heavily. Oversold on the RSI, and consolidating on the 1 hour. So smaller time frames looks like it is attempting to cool off a little bit. Larger time frames looks like it's likely going to be in for some further pullback. So the 618 is looking quite likely since we've already broke below the 0.5 fib level, so $7.17. And if it breaks below that, the 786, $4.79 is looking pretty likely at that point. At the very least, I'm thinking we're likely going to come down to the 618, though after we've already broke below the 0.5 fib level and bears are gaining momentum with a bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish engulfing, and bearish control zone on the RSI. Alright, let's see KT. Would this be the one that you wanted to see, D Community? KT Corporation? Alright, bulls are losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, neutral on the RSI, and consolidating on the candles for now. Potential double top here. Yeah, no problem at all. Alright, daily. Bears losing momentum on the MACD, but the stochastic is cross bearish. Very slightly in the bearish control zone on the RSI. Looks like it is attempting to potentially get up into the neutral zone. And pretty heavy consolidation on the daily candles for now. Bulls losing slight momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Stochastic cross bullish. Bearish control zone on the RSI and attempting to bearishly engulf. Looks more like consolidation than anything for now on the 4 hour. And before we pulled back, we had some 4 hour bearish divergence present. So we go from high to higher high on the candles, high to lower high on the RSI, so that'd be a bearish divergence, sign of potential reversal to the downside. We had become slightly oversold, pulled back up to neutral, and now it's looking like it is attempting to continue to pull back further from here. And also potential double top. So we're already below all the fib levels except the bottom of the fib extension. So if we were to pull back to the bottom of the fib extension, it's pretty close to 50% pullback from where we are currently. So $7.02 would be the bottom of the fib extension. We're at $13.93 right now. Looking more bearish than bullish currently on this asset. So I'd be keeping a pretty close eye on that. If we get towards the bottom of the fib extension, maybe it'll start to look nicer, but for now it does look like we could potentially pull back further on this asset. And anything else that you guys want me to take a look at tonight? Yeah, if there's anything else that you guys want to see, you can just post a couple of different assets and I'll get to those one after the other. Okay, Yum Brands. Yeah, this could definitely be looking better. So weekly bearish divergence. So the weekly is pretty well the most significant time frame that I typically go by. So we go from a high to a higher high on the candles, but a high to a lower high on the RSI. So bearish divergence, signal potential reversal back to the downside. We are currently bearishly engulfing on the candles, looking like it's going to attempt to break the 236 fib level. During the March COVID dip, we pulled back as far as the 618, so $56.41. Bearish cross on the stochastic, bears gaining momentum on the MACD, bearish divergence. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily with a bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. Bearish engulfing on the daily candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Bearish cross on the stochastic. Pretty close to oversold on the RSI, but not quite. Some more room to run to the downside. And bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles. So yeah, it's definitely looking like there's a strong chance that this is going to continue to pull back further. Anywhere between the 618 to 382 is looking pretty likely. At the very least, I'm thinking we're going to likely pull back to the 0.5 around 72.49. Especially with the weekly bearish divergence, if this continues to pull back further. The 382's very likely, and the 0.5, I think there's quite a fair chance we'll be seeing this as well. RSX, yeah, I'll take a look at that right now for you. Alright, bears gaining quite a lot of momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic. We are quite oversold on the RSI though, but we got a very large bearish engulfing candle here on the weekly. We had broken below the... oh, let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah, I got to adjust my fib levels here. Well, actually that's just a fresh break this week below it. Quite oversold, bearish cross, bears still gaining momentum. Yeah, that was a clean break below the bottom of the fib extension. Bears losing slight momentum on the MACD for the daily with the stochastic coiling up and attempting to cross bullish. Very oversold on the RSI and now consolidating slightly on the daily. Bears losing momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, stochastic coiled up heavily. Quite oversold on the 4 hour RSI. Consolidating on the 4 hour candles, looking like some very slight bullish engulfing attempting there. Bulls gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, stochastics cross bullish, 1 hour bullish divergence, and attempting to bullishly engulf. Yeah, I would wait for more information to develop on this one, especially with the way that it just broke so clearly below the fib level. The 1 hour, it's not that significant of a time frame whenever you have the weekly looking like this. Maybe after a little bit more information develops, it could potentially start to look nice for a reversal back to the upside, but for now this is just a really crazy looking chart, and I'd be sidelined on this waiting to see what information presents itself over time on here. Anything else that you guys want me to take a look at for you tonight? You guys have been spitting out some really crazy charts, though I've been liking the looks at some of these. They're really interesting to break down. Amazon's looking quite interesting. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic, oversold on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing below the 382. Oh, no problem at all, man. If there's anything else that you guys want to see, just let me know and I'll get to that right away. And if you guys are enjoying the stream, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, oversold on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the daily candles. Bears gaining some momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, stochastic coiled up pretty heavily, oversold on the RSI. If it were to bounce right here, there'd potentially be bullish divergence, but it's looking pretty close to invalidating that. And bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour. Is Toast the name of the asset that you want me to take a look at, or were you just talking about the previous asset I was looking at? Bears losing momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour. Stochastic coiled up pretty heavily below the 20. Very slightly oversold on the RSI for the 1 hour. And a little bit of consolidation on the 1 hour candles, looking like it is attempting to bearishly engulf. Oh, thanks for the subscribe, J-Dogs. Yeah, if there's anything else you guys want me to take a look at for you tonight, I'll jump on that right away, and if not, I'll probably call it a night soon. Lemonade and store. Lemonade Inc. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, this is pretty floored right now. Bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly. Stochastic is very slightly cross bearish, but coiled up pretty heavily. Slightly oversold on the RSI. And we're bearishly engulfing, attempting to touch the bottom of the fib extension currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and very clear bearish engulfing on the daily. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and bearish engulfing on the 4 hour candles. Bears losing some momentum on the 1 hour MACD, bearish cross though on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and making an attempt at bearish engulfing on the 1 hour candles. So we are pretty close to the bottom of the fib extension, so if that breaks that, I'm not quite sure how low this is going to be going, but I'd be keeping a pretty close eye on it because it's not really looking that great and looking like it is possible that we're going to break through the bottom of the fib extension like we've seen on Dogecoin. Alright, I'll take a look at store right now for you. Did you want to see Store the Crypto or Store Capital Corporation? just want to double check if you wanted to see the stock or the cryptocurrency for store. Alright, Store Capital Corporation. I'm just going to adjust my fib level slightly here, make sure that that's accurate. There we go. So we are currently breaking below the 0.5 fib level. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bearish cross on the stochastic. Bearish controls are actually quite oversold on the RSI, and bearish engulfing on the candles. Oh, no problem at all, man, anytime. I'm typically on here about 5 to 6 nights a week. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic. Very close to oversold on the daily RSI, but still more room to run to the downside if it wants to, and bearish engulfing on the daily candles. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. Pretty close to oversold on the RSI, and bearishly engulfing on the 4 hour candles currently. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 1 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic. Pretty close to oversold, but not quite on the RSI, so still more room to run to the downside on the 1 hour, and bearishly engulfing on the 1 hour candles. So this is another one that looks like there's quite a fair chance we're going to see this continue to pull back further. So the 618 fib level would be $23.93 on this asset, and the 786 would be $19.25. So I'd check back once we get down to around the 618. I feel like it's pretty likely we're going to see this level since we're already breaking below the 0.5. And at that point reevaluate, and we'll see if it's going to likely continue down to the 786. So for now it's looking like a potential support at around 23.93, but it is definitely possible it does continue to pull back further than there. And anything else that you guys want me to take a look at for you tonight? Yeah, between crypto, stocks, and precious metals, it's looking like the whole market's bleeding right now. Pretty dirty downtrends all around. Bitcoin is what I find at the most interesting spot currently. We're at a very key inflection zone for Bitcoin, so this is basically a really big make or break moment. We can either catch some bids and begin to rally and just hold off of this support here between about 28,500 to 29,500. And if we form a higher low here and bounce back, the crypto market could come back for one final run up for this cycle. But it's really not looking that great currently, especially after we just broke below the 618 fib level. So we really need to hold this support level here if we want any chance of another run up for this cycle. And if we break below here, that's just going to confirm that we're in the bear market, and most cryptos are just going to completely bleed for the next probably 2-3 years at that point if Bitcoin breaks this support level. Yeah, sounds good. I'll take a look at Dominion Freight right now. Yeah, if there's anything you guys want to see when I'm done this one, just let me know. And if there's nothing else you guys want to see, I'm probably going to call it a night. Alright, so weekly bearish divergence. So weekly bearish divergence, so we got a high and a higher high on the candles, a high and a lower high on the RSI. So that would be a sign of potential reversal back to the downside. Bears losing some momentum on the MACD for the weekly, stochastic cross bullish as well. The RSI is in the bearish control zone. And we attempted to get back above the fib level. We wicked off of it. It says Old Dominion freight line. I could double check just to make sure if there's any other Dominion freight lines. Yeah, all that I see is Old Dominion freight line. Yeah, just let me know if it's the right chart or not. This is the only one that I can see on TradingView is Old Dominion freight line. Bears losing momentum on the MACD for the weekly, bullish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI, and we attempted to get back up above the fib level, wicked off it twice, confirmed resistance where we had previous support, and now it's bouncing off of that to the downside. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the daily, bulls losing momentum on the MACD for the daily, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. Definitely looking like it wants to pull back further. Bears gaining momentum on the MACD for the 4 hour, bearish cross on the stochastic, bearish control zone on the RSI. Looking like we had a little double top here as well, and then we just continue to attempt to bearishly engulf. 1 hour, bears losing momentum, stochastics coiled up below the 20, still in the bearish control zone for the RSI, and attempting to bearishly engulf, but a bit of consolidation, cooling off going on here. Yeah, definitely looking like there's a fair chance we're going to see this continue to pull back further. So the 382 fib level would be 232.41 USD, and the 0.5 fib level would be 188.16. Yeah, back during the March COVID dip, we came down to about as low as 108, so that would be the 618 fib level. This one I'd probably wait for a little more information to develop just to confirm the downtrend, but it's looking quite like it does want to pull back further, especially the way that we broke below the fib level. Just wicked twice, attempting to get back above it, and confirmed that this is resistance, bounced, and now it's attempting to bearishly engulf. So, likely we're going to see the 382 fib level, and I'd probably reevaluate at that point and see if it's going to continue to the downside further. Alright, well, I'm going to call it a night, everyone. If you enjoyed the stream, just remember to subscribe and hit the like button. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great evening, everyone.
person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So, he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. By thoughts, I mean specifically chatter in the skull, perpetual and compulsive repetition of words, of reckoning and calculating. I'm not saying that thinking is bad. Like everything else, is useful in moderation. A good servant, but a bad master. And all so-called civilized peoples have increasingly become crazy and self-destructive because through excessive thinking they have lost touch with reality. That's to say, we confuse science with the real world.
This is the beginning of meditation.
Most of us would have rather money than tangible wealth, and a great occasion is somehow spoiled for us unless photographed. And to read about it the next day in the newspaper is oddly more fun for us than the original event. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing the real world of nature with mere science, we are destroying nature. We are so tied up in our minds that we've lost our senses. Time to wake up. What is reality? Obviously, no one can say because it isn't words. It isn't material, that's just an idea. Reality is
The point cannot be explained in words. I'm not trying to put you down. It's an expression of you as you are. One must live. We need to survive, to go on. We must go on.